We're ready.
We're all ready. Can you hear us online? Wave, James? All right, nice. All right. All right. We got a full house here in the room. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for everybody for joining. So we'll call to order. Start off with attendance. Bill Lesage, Chair.
Tim Lewis, Deputy Director of Public Works.
Rita Russell, Council Member at Large.
Chris Elstein, Deputy Director of Public Works for Operations and Maintenance.
Victor Rachael, Director of Public Works.
Tyson Thornburg, Budget and Financial Analyst.
Jenny Nolan, Budget Administrator.
Jackie Lowe, Finance Director.
Stephen Ward, City Council.
Suzanne Dirksen, Budget Advisory Committee.
All right. And on the phone or online?
Peter Echo, BAC.
James Horan, Budget Advisory Committee.
Min-Q John. Oh, sorry, Sean. Min-Q John, Budget Advisory Committee.
My apologies. I was trying to wait till all the commissioners went, but Sean Lewis, City Manager.
Jim, Deputy City.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. So last month's meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. All in favor of the meeting minutes from last month? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. They go through unanimously. All right. So I think we're ready today. So we're going to talk through infrastructure and transportation.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So Victor Rachael again, Public Works Director. I will walk you through a little bit here. Go to the next slide. Our outcome areas and kind of where we are on some strategic plan items. Then we'll walk through the 2022 budget as where we landed, as well as some of our challenges and opportunities moving forward. Next slide, please. Keep going. All right, so our goal really here on the screen is to be a city that's proactively and cost effectively managing investments, assets, making improvements, and protecting the infrastructure that we already have at hand. This is going to be really tough to read on the screen. I apologize. This is our updated, fresh, hot off the presses. Thank you, Tim Dodd. Strategic plan for infrastructure and transportation goals. You will see some things here added as discussed with the City Council, and particularly in the transportation safety area, as well as a few others. So you'll see that being published shortly. I believe the presentation, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, is available in the packet and online. Yes. So you should be able to see that if you have your computer available. Jump to the next one. Just kind of a recap on completed projects. For 2022, in total, roughly 26 projects were in process. Total 14 in progress, 4 delayed, and around 8 or 9 completed. We upgraded approximately 40 pedestrian ramps last year. We also constructed multiple, probably miles of missing sidewalks. We also conducted an annual pavement maintenance, finalized our comprehensive capital improvement plan, bonded, which we'll see here in the budget for stormwater projects, as well as closed on the Infrastructure and Finance Innovation Act loan. We identified and implemented some quick strike safety improvements inside the city, getting those projects going, and then completed the construction of the phase 2 Coma stormwater sewer improvements. All right, so this is just kind of a list of projects. I'm not going to read all these to you. The green dots means we're on target as originally projected, and the check mark means completed. So some of these are being carried over into 2023, and we'll talk about staffing a little bit more in the budget. Public Works Engineering has substantially increased our staffing level and filled vacancies as of this month, with only a few left. So we anticipate these hitting the marks outlined on the sheet here as we move forward throughout the year. Any questions on any of these projects?
It's like quite a bit, does televised just mean on the second one, just a recording of it?
Yes.
Yeah, just like if you were getting your main cleaned out or something, yeah.
Yeah, so they're actually scoping
Yeah.
and determining all of the infrastructure that's out there with cameras as
Yeah.
well, when that's too small for people to actually get in there and check out our larger.
Thank you.
They evaluate the condition as well, so we get a condition
Yep.
assessment to know what pipes need replacing and which ones are in good condition or not. So
And cleaning as well.
Yeah, they
That's
clean.
all part of that process.
Nice.
And we're wrapping that up. They've found one collapsed pipe. We actually got a report out today. So we're gonna be doing an emergency repair on that. The pipes were actually much cleaner than anticipated, and this is on the north side of the city, which was a great thing to find. We do have some clean out to do, but the vast majority were much cleaner than anticipated, so.
That's great. And scoping proactive, you know, being able to see what's going on down there.
Absolutely, and then we're gonna take that information and we're gonna put it into GIS. So we'll have a better map of our network, including size, material, and location. All right, on this slide, again, kind of the same legend. You do see 2 yellow triangles. Those are delayed projects. So touching on those, the first one is the US 285 on Broadway. So we have a grant project with Dr. Cog and CDOT, and there are some challenges there with funding. We are looking for opportunities around additional grants that we can seek to get those. The budget is short somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 million overall, so it's a pretty big gap. I would add that the Broadway Bridge is actually a CDOT asset, so it's not a city asset, but it does divide that Broadway corridor and is seen as kind of a pinch point. You know, we don't have good multimodal across it, pedestrian access, things like that. So with that project, if we can move it forward, that's our goal. We have talked to Dr. Cog about that particular project, and we've met our obligation date. So there's no immediate fear of losing the grant funds. So we have about a year or 2 before Dr. Cog starts looking at us, looking for some activity. So we're continuing to do additional funding. The Oxford Pet Bridge, recently in front of council, tied to the Sam's Automotive project. So the city again has some funding there. The Sam's Automotive project is contributing to that project somewhere between 500 and 600,000, which closes the gap by about half. So we're still a little bit short. We're looking for funding there too and trying to come up with some creative ways to get that done. So we do anticipate that one moving forward before 285 on Broadway. These are projects that have been completed, including sidewalk, pedestrian ramps, and paving. Next slide, please. Got one carried over and then a couple more completed here. We do have on this slide, some of this is also related to utilities and SPR, which I believe was a discussion last time. Next slide, please. All right, on this project, we do have 2 that are slightly delayed. One is the finalize and implement the scooter pilot program. You've probably seen some of the Lime scooters, and there's a couple other vendors out there. That was delayed due to staffing. We're currently evaluating that and seeing about spinning that back up again and getting that moving again, depending on staffing levels and resources available to put together a program. Then you have to license, and there's other challenges with that. We've seen issues around those being abandoned in people's yards and this kind of land in random places. So we just want to be thoughtful as we put that program together and make sure we address all aspects, including the code and compliance when it comes to the scooters. The other one that's kind of carried over is the wayfinding and placemaking elements, crosswalks and commercial areas. We're continuing to evaluate that and work with our communications team. Not directly tied to that because that's mostly around crosswalks, but we are upgrading all of our traffic signal signage to the new city logo. The team is currently working down the Broadway corridor and hoping to continue that and wrap that up this summer, again, pending staff resources. Next slide. Thank you. Most of these on this sheet are all on track with the restriping of crosswalks wrapped up actually late 21. Continue to evaluate those and make sure we don't have any degradation or anything that needs refreshing. All right, next slide, please. Thank you, Tyson. All right, and jumping into budget and overview. So a quick department overview. So Public Works has kind of three main components. We have our engineering and asset arm, which we have Deputy Director Tim Hoos here with us. We have our operations and maintenance and Deputy Director Chris Edelstein here. Then we have our stormwater arm as well. Those are kind of the main components that Public Works currently oversees. Next slide. So additional major accomplishments. You guys have probably seen some of the IGAs coming through council. We secured over $12 million in grant funding from DRCOG last year. That was the TIP Call 2 grant. There is a match requirement from the city. However, the match is substantially less than the overall project, somewhere in probably the 20% range for those projects. So we got a substantial amount of federal dollars coming in. We'll talk about how that translates to construction here as we look towards some of our challenges. A couple of slides down the list. We also received a grant for a hawk signal on Broadway. Mayor Pro Tem, I remember you mentioning crossing our current condition not being the best. And we also completed V-channel grading in alleys, which improves our drainage in that area. If a flat channel, you have a lot more erosion, so the V-channel is allowed drainage to work better in the alleys. We were also awarded the contract for construction for the Dartmouth Bridge. That one is one of our lowest rated bridges in the city and has been a long needed project. So we're excited to break ground on that here in the coming months, get that going. We also completed the property acquisition for the storm sewer outfall. That was just completed last month. And so we're going to be moving forward into construction this summer with that. And then this week, we hired and filled in our city engineer and engineering supervisor started yesterday. So we're excited to see our engineering side of the house continue to staff up. We'll be able to move projects forward, hopefully in a more efficient manner and meet deadlines. We're also actively filling our street operator and stormwater operator positions. We have 2 streets folks starting April 10th, and we just had a stormwater operator start on Monday, and I believe we have another one starting on the 10th as well, right? No. Not yet.
Not yet.
So as far as filling positions, things are definitely moving in the right direction, which is good to see.
Yeah, usually we've been hearing the opposite pretty consistently, so that is nice to hear.
So for context, in August, Public Works had a vacancy of 28%. As of today, we're just hovering above 12%. So,
is there anything you're contributing that to? Other than maybe luck? No.
It's probably a little bit of luck. I would say, obviously the economy has some influence on it. A lot of folks with the current challenges in the economic side, we see folks in the private sector maybe kind of reevaluating how secure their job may or may not be, especially if they were doing some kind of housing, engineering type stuff. We have actually secured a couple of folks from other agencies. Our city engineer, for example, came from CDOT. Our engineering supervisor came from the private sector. So I think it's a number of factors. One thing that we did here was local. Our city engineer lives local. Folks are looking for a shorter commute and looking to make a larger local impact is kind of what we're hearing.
Yeah, that's great.
Next slide. All right, on to the meat and potatoes here on the funds. So I'll start out by saying Tyson burst my bubble when we were only sending back 31,000. I thought we were, the closest to being on track for budget overall. I understand another department beat us. So we're number 1 in meeting our budget. But quickly running through the numbers, the first line, you'll see roughly $491,000. That's basically vacancy savings. That goes back to that 28% we were talking about. We had a pretty big gap. That's offset by the third line down, which, roughly 350,000 in professional services contracts. We didn't have the resources in-house, so we were contracting that out. With the staffing levels where we're at today, we're gonna have to keep a close pulse on where we're at there, because those vacancy savings for 2023, we anticipate those dropping significantly. And so we're gonna continue to stay in touch with finance and make sure we're on track budgetary wise.
Why were your commodities so overspent?
I'm sorry?
Why were the commodities so overspent?
Commodities were cost increases across the board. So that's mostly kind of our facilities and custodial services. We saw prices double through the roof. So we have tried to address that a little bit, either through contract or buying in bulk and trying to get those rates down. So great question. Any other questions on this one? General fund. So roughly 31,000 went back to the general fund there. Next slide. Thank you. Again, this one a little bit smaller utility, but the concrete utility here, this is enterprise fund. A little bit of vacancy savings, commodities again, a little bit in the hole. Again, cost of concrete through the roof, as with asphalt. Some professional services there due to staffing resources, and then we have a little bit of a surplus in capital. Again, not having staff resources to advance several projects. This also, based on how we're going through the city in different zones, this balances out over time. The zone last year didn't have as much concrete need, where we anticipate the next zone this year, we could see that get cut in half or utilized much more heavily. Any questions on that one? Next slide, please. SURF. So this is our vehicle replacement. And you can see a very large amount sitting in the fund balance as of 2022. Some of you may have heard, we did receive our 4 new plow trucks this year. So that balance is substantially lower as of the beginning Q1 of 2023. We also received several police vehicles. We still have some backlog though. So while there is a substantial number on the screen right here for 2022, that number is substantially lower now, and we anticipate coming to council for a budget supplemental to move the money and encumber it. It's still in the fund, but to encumber it back to cover these vehicles that were delayed due to supply chain issues, chip shortages, all those kinds of things. So we're happy to see them come in. We just wish they would have come in the budget year so we didn't have to do a budget amendment, but we will be coming forward with that here, probably end of Q2, maybe in Q3. Any questions? Okay, next slide, please. Stormwater. So same kind of story here on salary and benefits, vacancy savings. You will see the large capital number. That's the loan coming in. And as I mentioned, we have acquired that last piece of property first of this year, and we'll be going to construction. So while that number is sitting close to 14 million, at the end of 22, that will be significantly less by 23. We'll be under contract for construction. We'll be encumbered, and we'll be spending that down rapidly as we build out the pond and other improvements. And then we got the debt service ramping up as well. I think that hits full stride next year.
And it's how the capital is being spent there. Will that be part of like the meeting next month, the capital budget, the capital project review?
It should be in there,
Discuss
yeah.
that in more detail, yeah.
Yep. And that'll be the construction of the large pond.
Yeah.
And there was some property acquisition costs as well.
Yeah, this is Pieter. I'm interested in hearing more about that, so we'll look forward to that.
Okay, great.
Is there any news on the grant for the detention ponds? We applied for a grant. Have we heard back from the state on that?
We applied, you're referring to the FEMA grant?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, FEMA came back and we did not receive that grant.
Okay.
We have asked for a debrief because the information we received back, I will say, was extremely light. And despite our efforts working with FEMA and some of the consultants, we actually, through the process, thought we had a pretty good chance. So we were certainly disheartened to find out we did not receive that grant, but we are continuing to ask for feedback. And next time it comes up, we tend to go back after it.
Are we expecting to break ground on it, or are we gonna wait for another round of grant funding?
I think we're going to, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but we plan to break ground. We have sufficient funding to get that going.
We've got the loan to get going on. That was kind of our backup plan anyway. If you don't get the grant, the loan's in place to move ahead, because we need to move ahead on that project. That's an important one for the city. So the plan is to break ground this summer using the loan funding.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Next slide, please. So some of our challenges, obviously one of our big challenges is we had the tax increase in November. This is a challenge and opportunity, but maximizing that funding source coming in for street maintenance in 23 and beyond. So we've been working with finance. We have a projected budget amount that will be used for street maintenance with the escalations that we've seen in cost on materials for asphalt, as well as services for contract services. We do not think there will be any issue expending the funds, but the big point is performing the right treatment at the right time, getting our best bang for our buck, increasing our pavement condition index. Right now we're pretty low, and we're hoping to ramp that up and almost double it by maximizing those dollars and treating the worst roads throughout the city. Another challenge is those escalating professional costs. The grants, and you'll see it on the third bullet as well, the local CDOT agency process. So these grant projects come with federal requirements, and to manage those, you have to have experience in Davis-Bacon and the CDOT process and the federal process. Given our limited staff resources, we are relying on some professional services to help manage those projects, and those costs continue to escalate as we see with inflationary pressures, salary increases, all those things are ramping up. Similar to that, material costs, primarily on bridges, looking at 285 on Broadway. Bridges in general, because of the steel and the concrete cost, have almost doubled. That's why that project's got such a huge gap as well. And down at the bottom, just touching on staffing and staying competitive with surrounding jurisdictions. We've, as mentioned, been successful. We hope to continue that trend and fill our last couple of vacancies as much as possible. We have had other jurisdictions reach out to staff and try to recruit them. And so we're trying to push back on that obviously as much as possible. We have a great team, and we're trying to keep that team. And lastly, our aging infrastructure. And this goes for, as I think everybody has seen when you're driving around, not just our public infrastructure, but also our facilities and buildings. HVAC and roofs are a big thing. Our buildings, whether it's Malley, Rec Center, or this building, not PD yet, but a lot of the buildings have a lot of aging interior facilities that are going to need to be maintained, big ticket items that are in the wings. And so we're looking at those, looking at cost benefit, and trying to prioritize those and get the best bang for our buck, not only on public infrastructure, but also the facilities. Any questions? Next slide. So our top capital project priorities at the moment, street maintenance. We got that additional funding. We have some ARPA funding that we're looking to expend as well. So mill and overlay, crack seal, concrete utility, and then alley grading. As we touched on, we also have the South Englewood storm sewer outfall, and then bridge upgrades. Dartmouth, again, moving forward. Union also is in need of some repairs, and so we'll be advancing those here this summer. On the facility side of the house, Jefferson Fire Station, the locker room upgrade. We did an upgrade at Tacoma not too long ago. The Jefferson has not been upgraded, and we're currently working through that process right now. And then last, our energy audit. That is underway and supposed to wrap up this year, including some solar panel discussion. And so there's going to be some great information that comes out of that we're going to look to prioritize and figure out how to implement. Any questions on those?
This is Pieter, Budget Advisory Committee. I will tell you, I really love that there's been some focus on infrastructure. Certainly, the Dartmouth Bridge and the Union Bridge have been really a big topic in this group, and I know others. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the energy audit produces, and I think we should look at that with just a good perspective on what it really means for our city and controlling our costs, but also advancing our utilization of our resources, so to speak. So I'm excited about that, and I thought this was awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you, Pieter.
Yep.
All right, and that is my last slide. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if I can't answer, we got Tim and Chris here to help me out.
I think the challenge, more of just a statement, but I think the challenges faced, and when you were discussing the what to do with the sales tax, that'll be interesting here because we're going to be involved in, from a committee perspective, in reviewing that type of stuff going forward, next year. So that'll be good discussion.
Yeah, and to that, what we're doing is we've ranked all of the roads, and so we're trying to optimize, again, that right treatment at the right time, at the right place to get our pavement condition index, that PCI, up, and then trying to frame out a plan over the years here, given the budget increase. And then as we move through the year and into next year to actually see what that sales tax is. Right now, we're kind of working on a projection. And so we'd love to flex up and do more if possible, but we obviously understand that that's going to be limited based on what that generates. Yeah.
One question I sometimes get from citizens is, well, the public works crew came out and they fixed the pothole here, but 30 feet away, there's a bunch of potholes that aren't repaired. How does that happen from an operational efficiency standpoint? Is there some element of a pothole that involves grading where we have to fix this one right now and we can leave that one till later, or we're in the area, so we might as well fix everything we see right now? What's the process there?
Sure. So first I'll say, and I apologize, we were chatting just a little bit before the meeting. So the streets crew actually drove, I believe, the entire city about a week or two ago, documenting potholes, patching where they could. So some of it, to your specific question, is around logistics. If they don't have enough cold mix, which is asphalt that can be, comes out of a bag almost, and can be applied as a temporary fix. The hot mix, which is the permanent, we need certain pavement temps to be up. So each situation can be a little different. Hopefully we're not having somebody drive by a pothole to get to one just beyond it, because the one beyond it was on the list and the one they drove over wasn't. I don't believe that's what's happening. I believe it's more of a resource issue. They may have only carried enough to patch, say, 2 or 3 potholes. So they're going down the list and hitting the ones that were reported. If it wasn't reported, they should be tagging it and adding it into our QLR system.
Okay.
And then coming back to it.
Okay.
We've also, just so you're aware, we've modified our QLR system so that when they patch a pothole with what's called cold mix, again, that temporary, the system automatically regenerates a new action item 60 days out for them to come back and patch it permanently with hot mix.
Outstanding.
So we can kind of keep tabs up so we're not guessing anymore.
Yeah.
So we're trying to automate as much as we can.
Great. Thank you.
And hot mix is not always available, so that's kind of one of the things that people miss is if it's cold out, the plants aren't running. A lot of times in the winter months, they close them down to do their preventative maintenance, so they're ready for spring and summer. So hot mix is typically a little dicey to get this time of year. We're getting into the warmer months, so we should be good. And then sometimes they may, if the pothole is very shallow, the cold mix will not stick to it very well.
Okay.
So they would just be wasting the material. It would just kick right back up again. So
Okay.
there is kind of a depth requirement for the cold mix to make it worthwhile to have it adhere and stay.
Yeah, I noticed some significant improvement in the patches, particularly on Broadway, after we bought the hot truck last year. It seemed to be improving. So looking forward to more of that this year.
Yes.
Due to safety with that, we did that in the evening hours. So we did actually have the staff come in, lower traffic volume, and did that.
Awesome, thank you.
Quick question, Victor, on energy audit. Will Public Works conduct this audit by yourself, or are you collaborating with sustainability function? Because they're doing an energy audit as well. So it's a collaboration or a standalone?
It's collaboration.
Collaboration, okay.
Mel and Jeff Wenda, the facility maintenance supervisor, are working together to run that project. I kicked off about a month ago, so they're just starting weekly meetings right now, and then we'll be starting. The goal is a 9-month turnaround on the report, so we should have that by the end of the year.
Thank you.
In addition, or just a thought I had, I was noticing on residential homes, they've got these little wind turbines on the roofs. Will we be looking at anything like that in addition to solar panels? Or is that not even commercially available to buildings?
Yeah, we can check. I think to generate enough energy for it to be worth your while, it takes quite a large wind turbine.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
I'd be curious kind of where you've seen it. I've seen weather stations that have more of the cup style up there.
It's almost like a little dome, and as the wind blows, you can just see them. My neighbor's got about like 4 or 5 on his roof.
Really?
And I just thought that is so interesting.
Yeah, we can certainly touch base, and if it's not part of the discussion, see if we can confirm or get it added.
But I didn't know, I just didn't know how feasible it was, and haven't really talked in depth with him, but I just mentioned to him, it's like, I see these little things twirling on top of your roof.
Great idea.
Okay, thanks.
I see James has his hand up.
I do. Thank you, Bill. I was just curious for main arterials that pass through the city limits of Englewood that have a federal designation like Hamden or a state highway designation like Broadway. Is the primary responsibility for upkeep and maintenance with CDOT there, or does that fall on the city of Englewood?
So it depends on the roadway. Broadway is the city of Englewood. Hamden, 285, Santa Fe are all CDOT. I will say recently, until this year, actually, I believe City of Englewood had the traffic signals on 285 Hamden within the city limits, and that is now actually a responsibility of CDOT.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bellevue's another one. Sorry.
Any other questions from folks on the phone or comments? All right, okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time today.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see. I think we can go on to members' choice. So members' choice this week was, or this month was regarding the sales tax ballot measure. So we had the information is in the agenda, and it looks like Jenny just pulled it up for us, or I think was this just more kind of informational to make sure we're reviewing it? Yeah. Okay.
It was more informational, and I think just kind of a follow-up as a reminder, as we're having discussions with police and public works.
To have that information there, yeah. Yeah, that is
At
helpful.
the forefront of our minds that we
Yeah.
have to be
No,
asking these questions at the end of 2023.
Yeah, no, that's a good reference here. And then the other member's choice item was the capital improvement plan review with the city, with the council will be on April 24th, which is a Monday. So I know most of us were planning on attending in person or virtually. So just kind of a reminder to folks now that that's all set. And then the next day we have our meeting. So, and we'll probably maybe we could discuss that on the 25th, whether we want to have a separate meeting again. I think last year we did do a separate meeting to keep going through the budget or the capital projects. I think we understand the process a lot better now, so that'll help, but just something to keep in mind as we go through that, you know, do we want to spend that additional time? Do we need to throw in an extra session or not for that? So, but that is on the table. I think it was helpful last year. So we can discuss maybe more of that on the 25th. So we'll be stuck with each other for 2 days in a row.
And Chair, also remember we, May, we left completely for our conversation regarding capital prioritization.
Oh, we did, okay, I didn't remember that, thank you. I thought May, okay, you're
So
right,
at least
yeah.
now we'll have 2 meetings.
I was thinking it was the safety, but that's in June. Yeah, no, good, okay, thanks. Oh, yeah, James?
Peter.
James and Peter? James, you want to go ahead?
I think Peter was first, so I'll defer to him.
Well, I accept. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight, but I will tell you, Bill, and the group, I'm happy to be as involved as we need to be, and will commit myself to these Monday.
Great, thanks, yeah. I forgot about that additional meeting, so that should cover us.
No problem.
And I'll just add, I concur with both of you. I thought that was one of our most dynamic meetings. I really enjoyed the discussion and the back and forth and the questions that came out of that. And, you know, I'm more than happy to invest that extra time. I think it's very important and really prepared the committee well for the presentation to council.
Yep, definitely. I had one other item for members' choice before I open it up. James, just a reminder, Jenny had sent out an email regarding your application for renewal. I think your term expired, I think it was July. So you don't no need to answer now, but just a reminder that that's out.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure except for all the people in the room looking at you.
Bill, thank you for that, and thank you, Jenny, for the reminder. And you know, I've been really honored to be a part of this committee. I've learned so much about the city, gotten to meet amazing people like all of you sitting around this table. I ran into both Pieter and Suzanne separately over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you know, I'm a little disappointed that my travel schedule has been so rigorous that I haven't been able to join you in person. So I think, Bill, I'll be reaching out to you and to Josh and to Jenny to maybe have some conversation about whether it's appropriate for me to continue in good faith, because I want to match the level of commitment that everyone else around the table and those of us, the folks on the call, have all made. This committee definitely deserves that. So I'll be reaching out to talk more and to get your advice and counsel on that before making a decision.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Any other items for members' choice? Anything? All right, then we will see you on the 24th and 25th of next month, and we're adjourned. Thank you. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.